Phil, Mo, Mike.
Oh, let's go.
On Willard and Dibs. Let's go, Phil, Mo. Let's go.
Hey, what's poppin', y'all? Nah, I just want to say, y'all got to understand the difference between confidence and arrogance. Arrogance is along the lines of ignorance. You know what I'm saying? When you this is arrogant. Sean Payton is arrogant. Mike McCarthy is arrogant. When you don't change the game plan at halftime, you got Trent Williams locking up Micah Parsons. Dan Quinn is arrogant. You feel me? Confidence, what Deion said, I think you said it earlier, Willard. He also said, my confidence shouldn't offend you. You feel me? And if it does, so be it. Farhan is arrogant. Shanahan is just confident. You know what I'm saying? He knows. Now, I just want to say this last point. I'm going to make it real quick because it's kind of political. The Niners made a post about the war that's going down in the Middle East. They shouldn't even have said nothing. If a couple people commented on there, that was their first L of the season. I wouldn't even have said nothing.
Well, Phil Mo,
Agreed, Phil Mo.
I get it. I'm not going to agree or disagree.
Wow.
That's just, obviously what's going on over there is really hard to watch.
It's tragic.
And it's terrible. And so, of course, major corporations, major politicians are going to weigh in because, you shouldn't say anything. There's plenty of people who are saying you have to say something because you're a leader and whatnot. So I don't get too caught up in that. I will go back to your main comment, though, Philmo, and actually respectfully disagree with you. Do you notice the thread, Philmo, that you stated from the difference between confidence and arrogance? You gave a bunch of examples of both. And I'd argue there's absolutely nothing different at all with all of the examples you gave. There's one difference. You gave the label confidence to those who are actually doing well, and you gave the label arrogance to those who right now are struggling. They're all saying the same thing. But Sean Payton comes off to you as arrogant because he made big statements in the offseason and he's losing.
Yeah.
Farhan Zaidi comes off to you as arrogant, and I would actually submit to you, and I don't want this to sound like we're buddies because we're not, but as someone who has talked to Farhan face-to-face a number of times, I don't find him to be an incredibly arrogant human being. I find him to be stuck to a system, and maybe that's a fault. It's not working right now. But he's not someone who, if you're standing next to and talking to, you're like, get a load of this guy. He thinks the world of himself. He's not that way. But you think he's arrogant because he's sticking to a system and it's not working. He's not doing well.
It's a perception. It's an absolute perception.
Suddenly, Kyle Shanahan is confident and not arrogant. Why?
Because he's winning.
Because he's 5-0.
Well, that's what we talked about before. So I stand behind what Phil Mo said in terms of the difference, because when you are winning, it comes across as confident. And if Sean Payton were 4-1 right now, we wouldn't be dwelling on all the commentary that he's made about former coaches and other professionals in his industry when he's rat-a-tat-tatting people and then losing 70-20.
But that's my question. Is there actually any difference in the behavior, or is it simply the results that go along with it? Because if that's the case, then no, we're creating definitions then that aren't actually different.
The difference is if you don't talk, you can be confident, but we call those people quietly confident. It's a quiet confidence. And if you are bumping your gums, win or lose, then it comes across as arrogance. And I used the Larry Fitzgerald example earlier. I could say Calvin Johnson, Megatron is another one, a guy who's among the greatest to ever do it, but you never really heard from him. You didn't see them with the big point after a big first down or making a big deal out of something that they did. They were quietly confident, but they weren't seen as arrogant because they weren't bumping their gums.
Those receivers sometimes are so few and far between, we don't even remember them or know what to do with them. You know who teammates say literally sometimes wouldn't even speak? He wouldn't even speak, let alone do something brash. Andre Johnson.
Yeah.
Absolutely one of the greatest receivers out there. But that guy, like he was a mute practically on the sideline. Do you think he was quietly confident? I would argue you can't be one of the best receivers in the game unless you're unbelievably confident in your abilities.
Right, but the whole idea of arrogance comes from a notion of somebody either bragging about how good they are or rubbing your nose in it or both. And so I would agree with you about Farhan Zaidi. He doesn't give off to me the air of arrogance. Is he too smart for his own good?
Stubborn.
He might be.
Stubborn, I think, is the word people actually want in this scenario.
Or, is he misguided in his approach? I don't think that to me anyway, he doesn't come across as a guy who thinks he's smarter than everybody and can't wait to show you how much smarter he is than you.
No.
It's not. That to me would be arrogant, and that's where Gabe Kapler gets tabbed with the arrogant label more because of the way he goes about speaking and the way he approaches everything. It just feels like, and whether this is true or not, he gives off the air that he's better than you.
Right. It's like the phrase we keep hearing is the way. It's not what he does.
Right.
It's the way he does it. It's not what he says. It's the way he says it. And even that clip that we were just playing from Kyle Shanahan, hey, the more the better so I can help educate. That's all that's all that. It's the way that he said it. Well, I don't know. Sometimes I like to challenge that. You know what I mean? Like, is that really something we're going to come after the way that people say it? In other words, like, sometimes I think we need to fall back on the facts. We need to fall back on what's real and not be so damn sensitive. So if Kyle Shanahan looks at you, what if he just looked at you, Dibs, and went, hey, dude, I know way more football than you do. Is that arrogant?
No, it's a fact.
Thank you.
It's a fact.
Right.
But so if he does that after he loses his third in a row and he's, being beset by questions about his competence and maybe a fourth down play call or clock management, if he then comes across and says that, well, now you're being arrogant, dude, because you just lost your third in a row and it was 4th and 2 from the 38 and you chose to punt instead of either going for it or going for a field goal.
But that's timing. That's just timing in life.
Context, absolutely.
Okay, so Deion Sanders goes to Oregon and loses by a billion points. And he finds a microphone and goes, get me now. Better get me now. This is the worst I'm going to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Your reaction is what? Like,
that's arrogant.
Okay. But if Deion Sanders just walks into a room and goes, okay, just want to tell you guys all one thing. I am amazing. What's your reaction?
That's even more arrogant.
He's right. He's also right. You don't have to.
Well, he's not amazing yet as a coach.
No, facts already done.
I am amazing. Colorado's 4-2. Yeah,
okay.
You're good. It's a good story.
My man,
it's a good story, brother.
It's way past that. You are already talking about maybe the best defensive back the game has ever known. You are talking about somebody.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about the totality of Deion Sanders.
I'm going to get to even the coaching part. You're talking about someone who was the best at his position. You're talking about someone who understands branding maybe better than anyone in the sports world right now. And you're talking about someone, quite frankly, if you're not impressed by 4-2 for Colorado, it's because, and I get it, you haven't been following Colorado. They couldn't get a first down 10 months ago.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, I'm aware of where Colorado was.
He's amazing. And it's a fact. Like, wherever this goes next, his branding, the money he's generated, the confidence he's instilled in young people, the flipping of a culture, he's amazing. But we do this to people where it's like, I don't like the way you said it. And sometimes my reaction is, why are you so sensitive to it? It's a fact. He is. He's done a great job.
Sure.
Objectionably. And already. And Kyle Shanahan is a really good, smart football coach.
Right.
And I don't find that to be an opinion.
Well, there is a lot of subjectivity in terms of Deion and Kyle Shanahan. So,
well, anything's got subjectivity.
Exactly. So for you to say it's a fact is not true because it's not a fact.
Yeah, the subjectivity lies, I think, in other areas.
In the eye of the beholder as well.
But you can't argue that Deion has not done an unbelievable job with the culture. You can't argue.
I mean, you can't argue that, Deion Sanders has benefited by the fact that his players have made plays for him. So, yes, he brought the guys in.
I mean,
he changed the culture. To think that he has done it all, and by proxy that Kyle Shanahan has done it all.
I never said all. Who said all?
Oh, I know. But this is the sense of you saying, Deion, I am amazing. If he comes out and says that, well, yeah, you're great. But how about you give credit to the people who are out there making plays and doing other things? And that's where the arrogance comes from, that sense of arrogance.
Listen, I'm not saying that people should talk that way, but again, what we're really talking about is not characteristics of people. We're talking about the way that they communicate. And he hasn't made that statement. I think that a lot of this comes from our own sensitivities when someone is actually saying something that is totally inbounds and fair. You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, always live on the free Odyssey app. Twitch and YouTube powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Again, going back to the Shanahan, and the more the better, so I can help educate. It hits people in the wrong way, but I would argue that there is a sensitivity there that I would question whether it should be there. Like, yes, Kyle Shanahan could educate all of us in football. Doesn't mean he's perfect. Doesn't mean he's the greatest coach of all time. And he didn't say that. But it hits people. Like, that's my whole sort of point today, is Kyle is hitting you as arrogant for a few years, which is actually the frustration of the 49ers' failures at the end of the year speaking. I don't think he's doing anything differently now, but it's not hitting people as arrogant because they're 5-0 and the quarterback's on an MVP track.
I think there's more to the Kyle arrogant notion than just that soundbite that Grandy was playing. The whole idea of trading up 3 first-round picks to draft a guy from FCS who was unproven, that speaks of a certain level of arrogance to some. That you're the quarterback whisperer and you think that you're going to be able to take this guy who played in the FCS, the D2 level essentially, the D1 AA level, and you're going to turn him into a franchise quarterback. Some people see that as arrogance.
But what if he just thought he could do it?
What if he was wrong?
Right.
So that speaks to arrogance. That's I'm saying
being
this,
wrong speaks to arrogance. We're all
making
wrong.
that sort of a move to take all those picks and to move up to draft a guy that was completely unproven in order to try to make him something that he turned out not to be.
But I get, like, those are your words. Like, it's not.
Yeah, it's my opinion.
But it's not. I'm going to make him something. It's an evaluation. It was a misevaluation.
Yeah.
I think this kid can become something. So that's all I'm saying. I think we affix these words and we go, like a play call. I'll give you another example that I think you'll like. Remember when the Chiefs played the Bengals in the AFC title game and they lost? They had a big lead. And in fact, I think if I remember correctly, you and I came in here on Monday and we talked about it and you were like, the Chiefs they were arrogant and they're going home because of it. And I totally understood what you were saying. Because right before the half, the Chiefs were already up by like 17, and they went for a touchdown with no timeouts. They got burned, and they got nothing, and they could have taken the field goal, but they were feeling themselves, right? And they thought, hey, man, we're running downhill. Let's put another 7 on the board. And we come in the next day, and we go, they got bit by their arrogance. And while I'm not saying they're wrong, I do think sometimes our label is excessive. It also was just Andy Reid had a play that he thought was going to work. It didn't. Is that some sort of like, I can't believe what you think of yourself? I don't know. Trey Lance came from North Dakota State. So did Carson Wentz. And he was number 2 overall, and he was going to win an MVP. And even though he didn't end up working out, do we go back to, the Eagles were arrogant? I don't know. They thought the guy was going to be good.
But they didn't trade 3 first-round picks to move up and get him.
That's true.
And that to me is a big part of the notion of the arrogance of Kyle Shanahan of, I can take this guy, and whether or not he was coerced into picking him or not, I don't know if we're ever going to find out the true story with how that played out, whether or not Kyle Shanahan wanted to move up and draft Mac Jones, which would have been an equal disaster. Probably would have been more disastrous.
Unless you're Orlovsky, you think it would be amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So depending on how you think that would have played out, bottom line is they made that move to go up and get Trey Lance, and Trey Lance didn't work out. And you're the offensive coordinator, you're the head coach, you're the QB whisperer. And so for me, that does reek of a certain amount of arrogance.